Now we will go to the next partition of our seminar, and I proudly present our Riksarkitekt, Helena Bjarnegård, our state architect in Sweden. And I would like to introduce Helena and welcome you to speak about how we are rethinking our urban practices. So please welcome and
thank you so much for the invitation to come and speak at this seminar. I'm very, it's very good to do that. Thank you so much. I met some of you in September. Then I talked to you and I gave a speech about basic human needs. Somewhere to live, have a shelter, somewhere to feel safe and secure, a place where you feel welcome and feel a sense of belonging to. That was the speech in September. And as we all know, a lot have happened since last time we met. And sadly enough, that speech is even more relevant today than half a year ago. And when I read the text in the invitation to this event, I read that the destruction of Russian missiles and attacks on the ground transformed the built environment into uninhabitable rubble, but it also transformed the public perception of architecture as a symbol of stability into a symbol of fragility. And that's severe. That worries me a lot. I also read that this demonstrates that deep meaning of architecture as a protection against threats and attacks. The loss of this trust in architecture is also an aspect of the trauma that needs to be addressed. The loss of trust, that worries me, because trust is the fundament, is the baseline of democracy. But we work with architecture, and as we see it here in Sweden, we can see that architecture really can be a tool and to work with the design process, to gain trust, to work with the big challenges in society in different ways. So as Emina said, I can see hope when I see architecture and when I can see architects work in the design process. In the National Recovery Plan from Ukraine government in July 2022, it is stated that Ukraine will build back better, aligned with the European values of democracy and sustainability. This is also what we talk about in Sweden when we talk about the architecture policy, the policy for designed living environment. And today, I'm going to give you some examples from our policy. I hope it can help you because I know that you don't have time to develop policies and documents. It takes, several years. So what can you take from our policy? And I will also give you some examples of the policies for architecture in Europe. So the policy in Sweden is called Designed Living Environment, and it's a policy for architecture, design, art, and cultural heritage. And we say in that way that it takes a holistic view of the whole physical environment, the whole environment that we really create together. The goal, that the government decided upon as architecture and design will help to create a sustainable, equitable, and less segregated society with carefully designed living environments in which everyone is well placed to influence the development of the shared environment. Sustainability carefully designed living environments, and inclusion. This is going to be achieved by putting quality and sustainability in the first room and not make those values subservient of short-time financial instruments and considerations. That's hard to achieve, but we set a goal to do that, and we work in many, many ways. And quality is really in the center of this policy. You can also read that quality in architecture, form and design is about creating value, not only for the customer and the user, but also for the surrounding society and future generations. As I said, it takes a holistic view in many different ways. It takes in social, environmental, and economic sustainability. We look at utility, sustainability, and beauty, carefully designed living environments. It's about all scales from city planning to details. It's about planning, building, managing the space that we have around us. And it's about the built environment in itself and the process, the design process. And when we work on a national level with implementation of the policy, we go through all those boxes, then we work with regulations, laws, and policies. We work with financial tools, building and spreading knowledge, networks, engage and inspire, local festivals, design challenges such as Visions in the North, and so on. So we have a lot of tools that we work with. And in June, I'm going to tell you more about those tools and our regulations. But for today, I will stay at the policy level. And I will turn into the policy level in Europe. I think you all heard about European Bauhaus. They have actually the same values that they work with as we do in Sweden in our national policy. Sustainable, inclusive, beautiful, carefully designed living environments. And they also work with the same tools as we do. Financial tools, networks, building and spreading knowledge, and so on. And this really spread all over Europe. And I know that they're also going to work together with you in Ukraine now. And that's good. But right before the European Bauhaus initiative was launched, I was in a group in Europe, and we developed a policy on a European level. And it's a little bit more hands-on than the Swedish policy. And I think you can have can find operational tools in this that can work for you. This document is a part of the work plan for culture for Europe. And we were a group and we started our work in 2020. And it's, a piece of a puzzle. The work on a European level for high quality architecture and built environment for everyone started in 1988 with awards and so on. And there were several resolutions during the different years, 2001, 8, and so on. And in 2018, the Davos Declaration came with a quality system. And in 2020, we started this work. And after that, the European Bauhaus was launched, and it was very much inspired by this work. And we were a bunch of people from all European countries working with this together. Some of the key identified challenges and tasks is that culture is key. I also saw this when I visited Umeå and the Swedish Presidency Conference on Culture and Creativity in February. There was a researcher from Ukraine there, and he showed that with figures that culture is much more close to people now at wartime than before. So that really shows that culture is key, and that also what we showed in Design Living Environments, that culture is key. Planning the future with quality in mind, the quality, again, here on the European level. And seeing the bigger picture, having a holistic view in many different ways. Don't forget the financial tools. Strengthen competences and also strengthen the role of architects as enablers, as agents of change. And to the more hands-on part, we took the Davos quality criteria, governance, functionality, economy, environment, diversity, context, sense of place, and beauty. And we broke them down into tools that we can use, when you can use, when we plan, when we build, when we manage, when we work on a national level, on a local level, and so on. And we also identified case studies and published them. And I think you can find a lot here. So I'm not going to read this, but just to show that we really broke down those quality criteria and really tried to describe what we mean by them. And we also did tools that you can work with in your processes, wherever you are. And we published case studies on a lot of different tools, awards, for example, as the Municipality Architects Award or the Public Contracting Authority Award in Belgium. Case studies on laws and policies, you can find them here. For example, Sweden's guidelines for architecture policies and strategic work in municipalities, or the Swiss Federal Inventory of Heritage Sites, or how Latvia worked with cultural heritage on a policy level, but also on a very operational level. We have case studies on education, awareness raising. For example, we lift Karlshamn in Sweden, the Architecture Week that Emina works with, and Tallinn's Museum of Architecture working with kids. And also Helsinki's when they work with architecture and kids in Finland. We have case studies on adaptive reuse from several countries. I think this can be good for you. From Tallinn again, from Malta, from Germany. And we have case studies on processes and tools for research. For example, the state architect in the Netherlands who do this exhibition and travel around the cities in the Netherlands. And the French doing the same thing, actually, the French government. Also case studies on funding and investment. For example, how the state in France funded transformation of Cité du Grand Parc Bordeaux. And this is a really, really good project that you can go into and look how they worked. People were still living in the apartments and they did this renovation in a very good way. Cultural heritage sites in Spain and how they work with them. How a grassroots initiative can be lifted up in Riga, in Latvia, and in Finland, for example. Or how we work with technical innovations and new materials and old materials in new ways. For example, in Sara Kulturhus in Skellefteå in Sweden, where they work with wood from the clothes part from the region. Or in Tallinn, working with augmented reality to create architecture and art. And all this, I hope it can be helpful for you, because I know that you don't have time to develop policies and quality criteria, but here actually people from all over Europe, from the Davos Declaration, me working with the policy in Sweden, taking this knowledge to EU and spreading the Swedish knowledge into EU, and all the other countries contributing together, and we're doing this together. And I think this can be very helpful for you. So I give this to you as a present. And it's 128 pages, so I think there's a lot more to say. And the key challenges and tasks again, culture is key. Planning the future with quality in mind, seeing the bigger picture, strengthening competences, strengthening the role of architects, to work with democracy, to work with sustainability for the whole society, and to restore a feeling of sense of belonging and trust. And when we see each other in June in Gothenburg, I will go into the Planning and Building Act in Sweden and tell you more about legislation and how we work with that in Sweden to secure democracy and build trust. Thank you.